attention or spotlight on the issue of the 2013 matric results. Peter Ndoro still standing by there with the Basic Education Minister, Angie Motshekga. But I want to hear from you now what you make of the minister's comments and what she's had to say about the matric results. So let's go to the Twitter sphere and see what they've had to say there. Senzo8 tweeting saying, how do they invest in teachers? Because no child wants to be a teacher now because of the salary of educators. Hashtag useless government. Some strong words there from Senzo. And then you've got Morning Live SABC. We've put up a particular link that delves a little deeper into this, and the views of AfriForum are what we've brought for you there. So you can go to our Twitter site and then just check that out. Let's leave it with Rabotada M saying a wonderful response by the minister on the issue of 30% pass. So that's just some of those are some of the views that we have for you in terms of what you've had to say in response to the minister. But perhaps, Peter, while I throw back to you, we can talk about education now. We've looked at the actual students, but let's talk about the encouragement to encourage the youngsters to go on into the teaching profession and how that is going about. One of the tweets suggesting that people don't want to become teachers, but perhaps the situation on the ground is a little different, Peter?
Oh.
All right, I wonder whether or not Peter can hear us. I know Peter is probably just getting himself up to date with some of the comments.
We're talking education today. Well done to the class of 2013. They passed 78.2%, and the trend is upwards. Many successes at different layers and different levels, and we're unpacking those results and some of the initiatives that the Basic Education Minister has been doing with her team, and we're going through your questions here and at home as well. And table number 8, Portia Ndlovu is standing by to ask a question. Portia?
Morning, Honourable Minister and your delegation and everybody that is here. My question basically is, as we celebrate your results with the 2014 and obviously over the years with the improvement that you've had, conversation is raging out here on the publication of the results on the newspapers. Is there an impact on the privacy and the suicidal nature of the kids that don't fare very well? And obviously now policy comes into play in your office. The question then I'd like to question is, the techno world that is being almost put through to you to say, are you willing to consider moving into a technological environment? Does the department have enough budget to carry that initiative? Or you'd rather focus on correcting the wrongs that you already have going in the department and all the issues that we have in the rural schools, to improving those as compared to focusing on something that is new, what is broke, don't fix it, kind of view on it. And secondly, as you were speaking, a question came up for me to try and understand what is then the collaboration with the Social Development Department in improving all the other factors that influence the youth and the young as they come through the streams of life and coming into an economic world. Thank you.
Okay.
No, thanks. In terms of the publication of results, that is part of the committee that we've established, not only on, that is under Professor Brian O'Connor, to look at the 30%, the pass rate, but also the administration, which will include the publication of results. There are different views to it, but again, we're giving South Africans an opportunity to make submissions. I don't have any personal interest whether they're out. I mean, I found it as a tradition that results are out. Other people think it inspires kids because they know there's a moment of glory. So they just think it's motivation, but others, as you correctly say, feel that it's suicidal. So it can create suicide. So it doesn't affect us in terms of budgets, because even now, we've had to print certificates. After they see their names in the papers, then they can go to schools. And it's just that young people are young people. I always say, if you're going to pass, half the time you know you're going to pass. By the time you go to exams, you know you're going to pass. It will be, I find it sometimes strange, an A learner who doesn't see their name and just think they're suddenly going to fail. They should know that there's something wrong that has happened. But if really you've been struggling with zeros, and then suddenly you think after you've sat for exams, you're going to pass, and if you don't pass, it's a big... Normally your tests or assessments prepare you. So that's why we can even estimate to say whether we're going to make an improvement. It's because we monitor progress throughout the year. So even kids themselves have an opportunity to monitor if they're making progress or not. When we say we're going to get 75%, which is what we're looking at, it's because we're informed by the monitoring of the performance throughout the year, that indeed we're not going to reverse, we're moving forward. So that's it. In terms of ICTs, we're working very hard. Deputy Minister is responsible for ICTs in education. We think it's going to help us to a very large extent. As one of the participants here raised a question about teacher supply, but there's also teacher skills and teacher capabilities. And we think that through ICTs, we can bridge some of the gaps in terms of your teachers' skills. And also, there's research which confirms that through ICTs, because our kids are in the ICT age, they learn much more faster than with your teaching, so they can learn on their own. And there are very nice programs that are there. So we are moving our budgets towards ICTs to make sure that indeed we can enable our kids to access knowledge through ICTs, and that's the area we're moving into. Gauteng, for instance, will be providing a tablet for every child. Different provinces begin to move their budgets. We're training teachers. We're working quite close with your ICT sector, and they've been responding quite well. Your MTNs, your Vodacoms, your Telcoms, all of the ICTs, your Cell C, all of these ICT companies, even those in computer sciences, computer in the technology, are assisting us a lot.
All right. On Facebook, Kidiboni Sikwele says, Deputy Minister Mvaseti was quoted as saying, we have over 1,000 schools without electricity. How long must we wait for all schools to be electrified? It's almost 20 years in our democracy, and in my opinion, I think it's long overdue. I know that you've got the Accelerated Schools Infrastructure Development Initiative. How far along are we to getting to this ideal?
We've gotten a long way. By the time we took over, 20 years down the line, we had 15,000 of them. 15,000 of them not electrified. That's why we have an accelerated program, and we hope that, because we're supposed to complete by 2015, we do hope that if ready with 2016, around basic functionality, which is your water, your sanitation, your electricity. And then in terms of the norms and standards that we have published, there are other facilities that we hope to really complete in less than 7 years' time, because she's quite right. One school is one too many. Despite the fact that we've done more than 14,000, but the 1,000 also deserves just that basic functionality in schools. And that's why we have this RCD program to accelerate our work and support provinces in providing this infrastructure.
Okay, Mark Ramutla, I suppose this might be related. What can be done to improve the pass rate in the Eastern Cape? There's a shortage of learning facilities there.
Yeah, there are lots of problems. I mean, when I went to brief the president on the results, I did also highlight to him to say there are problems. We will be going with him in the first week of January, with him to stay there for a week and really work with the province to iron out some of your perennial problems that we know still persist in the province. So I do hope that, again, this year we'll still be able to make progress.
Is it a challenge for you as the national department to set norms and standards and policy, but the implementing agencies really are the provinces, aren't they? And is that a challenge for you? Because this is what you're trying to do at this level, but what's actually been implemented might be different.
You know, our system has got its strengths and weaknesses, because it is a strength to have all 9 provincial departments doing the work themselves, because it means we have 9 centers of energy doing work. And that's why we're making progress. I mean, the Free State, to just sit with them and agree with them, they move. And it means it removes the burden from you as a national minister. You go to Limpopo, there's a collapse, you say, let's sort out your HR program. You agree on the program, they implement. So at that level, it's very helpful, because then you can do lots of things without necessarily being absorbed in one province doing the work. It is a problem if we have a situation like we have in the Eastern Cape, where the problems are clear, the solutions are clear, and they just don't get implemented, because it's not as if we don't know what the problems are in the Eastern Cape. The thing that is needed is that those that need to implement those decisions, hard, sometimes very hard as they are, they have to be implemented. one of the key things the Eastern Cape has to do is has to sort out their HR to get a teacher in front of every class and make sure that it works with unions to agree that teachers have to move. Like all of us, we move to where our jobs are. If I'm in the national list, if they say Cape Town, I can't say I have an aging mother and a child in the Gauteng, I can't move to Cape Town, I have to go to Cape Town. And you expect the same with teachers to say, if learners are in Kumbu, that's where you go because that's where your work is. And they just are not resolving that problem. And it is a problem that is sacrificing kids in the Eastern Cape. So it is a problem, but also, as I said, the current structure also has got its strengths, especially if you've got MECs that move. I mean, KZN, it's hard to work in province. You don't want to be absorbed as a national minister because it means you are going to be tied in one province. You want people there to implement so that they can free the national department to do monitoring, to do support, to do the necessary data. The work that we're doing is quite helpful to have this current structure, but it's a problem if then those that implement don't implement.
There are political overtones as well in education, which has got nothing to do with the students, but you've got the teachers, unions, that sometimes down tools. How do we manage that in 2014?
You know, I always appreciate that teachers are also, the first thing that they are teachers as professionals, but they're also workers. And they have a responsibility to keep that balance where they can protect their constituency if they feel that there's an unfairness. So the whole struggle all the time is to really manage the rights of children to uninterrupted education, but also respect the rights of teachers as workers to also be treated fairly in their perception. So it's an ongoing struggle we have with teacher unions, and I think we're managing it. Sometimes it goes out in the open, we fight out and go out in the streets, but half the time, if you don't find us in streets, you should know that we're doing productive work. So it's not all the time that we're in streets. So if you don't see us in streets, you should know that we're doing very productive work with our teachers.
Okay. Martinez Mbanja, table number 5. I hope I read your writing properly. Please correct me. Martinez, table number 5. If you could start with your name.
Martins Mbanja. I'm from Cedar City campus. Congratulations, Minister. As a teacher, I think over the years, 6 years in tertiary, the results prove to us that there is improvement. But my question, taking a backdrop from the fact that the life expectancy is improving, and the fact that the years of productivity of South African civil servants is being taken up, that tells us that the productive years are improving. I want to know what the minister is doing together with other civil society organizations to support adult education. Because these days we have a lot of our mothers, parents that are interested to go to tertiary, but they don't have the basic to be able to attend that. I want to know what the minister is doing, support and funding for adult basic education. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for raising that, because it's one area which we really don't, I think, make adequate noise about it. Just as the Deputy Minister announced yesterday, just in 5 years, we've enabled more than 2 million illiterate adults to be able to read and write, which is very helpful for us in terms of the support that kids need at home. Because one of the factors which make us as South Africa, as a nation, not to perform as well as we should, is that as a nation, we're not also a reading nation. And if kids start seeing parents go reading, it inspires them to read. You compare countries like Russia, which are leading in literacy. The research tells us more than 90% of Russians are readers. It says 5% of South Africans are readers. It says are readers. It says only less than 5% of South Africans are advanced readers. And this matches also with our literacy standards. You can check in any other country to say, if you're a reading nation, it becomes a culture of the nation to read. You buy kids presents of books, you bring newspapers at home, you talk education at home, you look at their homeworks, and those are the things that also help us to improve the work that we're doing. And that's why, as I say, but the last question before, so that I don't take too much time, in terms of civil society, I just think one thing which is very good about South Africans, and which sometimes people ask me to say, don't you feel discouraged with critics? And I tell them that the majority of South Africans have come to the party and are helping us big time. They may not be running to the media and raise sorts of things, but they run to us as education. Last year, they launched a very useful collaboration, national collaboration framework, which is headed by Sizwe Nxasana, and is doing lots of work. Just in 6 months, they've profiled more than 7,000 schools to identify what the problems are, to bring the private sector to work with us to address those problems. As I said, Trust. So civil society has come to the party. Yes, indeed, there's sometimes unwelcome noise, but the majority of civil society organizations are helping us in many respects. And fortunately, those are the professional bodies that we need that are working with us, so that even the non-professional, even if they make enough noise, you don't worry too much, because in any case, there's very little they can contribute towards your core business and the work that you are doing, which is around curriculum.
Mandla Mguni writes, is OBE officially dead and buried?
Yeah, we're phasing the last grades this year, so we thought of phasing it gradually.
Yeah.
So this year we're introducing the final, so by end of 2014, it will be something of the past. Okay. We're still having a coffin, we'll bury it by the end of 2014. So we're burying it this year.
Okay.
But it's almost dead, we're burying it this year.
Blossom Pumzile Mashabane says the early release of the IEB matric results disadvantages poor learners from historically disadvantaged public institutions. The IEB learners are already in queues registering at institutions of higher learning, and the poor public schools don't even know whether they've made it or not. By the time they find out, the IEB learners will have secured themselves in the first choice courses and cushy residences, and the poor will be left scrambling for leftovers.
No university registered kids in January.
Okay.
All kids know they have to apply the latest by September. So even for IB to go and queue in January, I'm not sure if they'll find space. So all universities normally close their registration as early as March, April, the latest September. So there's nothing about queuing and other things. It's neither here nor it's not there.
All right, so okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Joe